Hi everyone, it's Camilla from YTFIVE here. I'm going to show you today how to use this to make a beautiful Easter wreath. We are going to be using all these amazing flowers from YTFIVE. So we've got wax flower, these beautiful yellow balls called crispadia, which are also called billy buttons. You can see here this lemony yellow, it's gorgeous. This limonium, which is also called sea lavender. If I turn it all the way around to the back, here we go. Be able to see we've got some lovely ivy there as well, and these are all going to combine together to make a really beautiful wreath that you can make at home. Then you can hang up on your door, or you could hang on your wall as an Easter decoration, or just as a springtime decoration really. We are going to first of all cut down our foliage to the right size. So here's the wax flower. And to do this tutorial today, you are going to need a pair of secateurs. These are the ones that I have here. Just going to move this ivy out of the way. Hold on a second. So these are my little Japanese secateurs. So you need a pair of those or scissors, some floral wire, and also some twine. I like this nice natural twine here. And then of course your wreath, which is flat on one side and then curved on the other side. So let's get started and I'll show you exactly what you need to do today. Super simple, super relaxing, really fun. Let's just open these secateurs. So to start with, we're going to cut down all the foliage. This is the wax flower here. You can see there's lovely, you see that? There's lovely white and green little blossom on the top. Quite branchy and twiggy. It's really lovely. We're going to cut this down to about 15 centimetres, something like that. Between 10 and 20 centimetres depending on the length of the stalks really, of the stems. So we're going to cut them all down to size, and the reason that we're going to do that is because then when it comes to building your wreath, all the flowers, if they're pre-cut, and all the stems, all the blooms are going to be around the same length, so it makes for a much more even wreath and it just makes the whole process much more simple. So I'm going to start by cutting all the tops off and all the little stems and twigs on this wax flower. Now I'm just going to do a few today to show you how to do it, because if I was going to cut through all of them, you'd be sitting here for a long time. So let's just keep cutting these off. Snip, snip, snip. You can see they're all roughly the same length. Let's just get a few more. Such beautiful flowers, these, so delicate. And this wax flower is going to be the base of your wreath. So sometimes at Christmas you might use pine as the base of your wreath, or holly, or another flower. It's kind of the basic underlying flower that's going to give you all the structure for the wreath. So now we're going to take these beautiful lemon-coloured crispadia. I love these. They're textured like little pom-poms. Amazing. They dry really beautifully as well. So we're going to cut these down to roughly the same size as the wax flower that we've already done. So again, kind of 15 centimetres I'd say to aim for, something like that. I'm going to keep cutting them down. So when these dry, you keep that, well, they almost sort of, they retain their real lovely luscious yellowness. So such a good flower that works really hard for us. Let's cut a few more. And again, you can cut all your flowers in advance. I'm just going to cut a few of them here to show you. Let's have a look. I think just, yeah, let's just do two more. Oh, go on, one more then. Let's put that there, and then we'll put it away, and we'll move on to our next flower. And now we're going to cut this, which is sea lavender or limonium. This is quite already separated, so it's sort of relatively easy to see where to cut. But again, we're going to try cutting it into 15 centimetre little sections, and these are going to go into our posies. And then you'll be able to see the process later, which I'm going to show you, where we put the posies all the way around the wreath. So again, we're just preparing these stems now so that they're all the right length, so that when we put our wreath together, all the stems will be around the same size and you'll have a nice evenly sized wreath. So I'm going to take the ivy now. That one's already around the right size, and then I'm just going to snip it. It's a bit trickier with the ivy because it's a little bit curly, so it kind of goes wherever it wants to. So we just kind of have to cut something that's around the right length, and then we can always snip that one down later. So now we should starting to get all our different bits and pieces that we're going to put together in our posies. Let's just get a bit more of this ivy ready. Love all the contrasting textures and patterns that you get with this wreath. So there, we've got our billy buttons, our wax flower, our sea lavenders and our ivy. You can see how well all the tones and textures and colours go together. It's already feeling like spring, isn't it? And now we're going to start making our actual wreath. It's really simple to do this, and such a lovely way to spend time, especially if you've got a cup of tea with you, some music on. Really gets you in the mood for spring. I love spring decorations. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to first of all make a little posy with the wax flower, which is our base flower. So we're going to take quite a few pieces. I think it's quite nice to have quite big posies, because then you get a fuller wreath. So I'm going to put a bit of this sea lavender behind it and interspersed through it. You can see the colours are really contrasting well. Let's put a little billy button there, or crispadia there. And now we're going to just finish it off, this little first posy, with a little bit of ivy. It's already looking really beautiful, that, isn't it? It would look lovely in a little vase. So this is where we start to build our wreath. So we take the floral wire, which is a very easy wire to work with, and we unwind a little bit and we start wrapping it round the stems, move away any leaves that are in the way, and we're not going to tie it too tightly, but we're just going to keep wrapping it so that the stems are secure. Keep wrapping it round and round the stems, and don't cut it at this point, because this is what we're going to do next. We're going to place the posy on the wreath, and then we're going to start winding the wire around the wreath and also our little first posy, and that's just going to start securing it tightly on, and that's the very first posy on our wreath. So essentially we're just going to keep going like this until we've filled the whole wreath with lots of these little posies, and this is how we start. So I'm going to put the wire there in the middle and move on to my second posy. I'm going to take some more of this wax flower and repeat the process that we did before. So build a mini posy first with the wax flower. Just check that the proportions are right. You can hold it against the wreath to see. Now I'm going to put some of the sea lavender in. I like to put some behind and some in front. And then the crispadia. And then a little bit of the ivy there. It kind of goes where it wants to go, the ivy. We haven't got much control over that. It's something I really love about it. It's got its own mind. And I'm going to put it on the wreath at a slight angle to the first one. So you can see it's kind of going inwards, and the first one was facing outwards. And now we're just going to wrap the wire that hasn't been cut. That's really important. It's still on its roll. I'm going to wrap it around. If I show you a bit more closely here, wrap it all the way around the wreath and those stems to hold it tightly in place. Don't want to break the stems. I want to be really quite gentle here. Let's just manoeuvre that bit so you can see. So we've got one going in and one going out. And I'm going to take some more of the wax flower that I cut earlier. I'm going to make another posy. So again, using the wax flower as our base flower. It's a really lovely neutral base here with all this spread, sprinkle, flurry of white flowers. And I'm going to put some of this sea lavender And this dries really nicely, the sea lavender as well. It's quite a vibrant purple at the moment, and as it dries it turns into a really delicate blue. I'm going to put a crispadia and I'm going to put that slightly outwards, so it's facing slightly this way, as you can see there. And then we've got one going in and one going out, and that means that the whole of the wreath is going to be covered, so you're not going to have any open spaces where you can see the straw wreath underneath. So again, if we just hold it against the wreath and then we start to wrap this wire round and round it goes. It's quite meditative really, this process, just circling over and under and over and under. We keep going until it's nice and tight and secure. Don't want to push it too hard, just gently round. And again, let's take another posy, some more wax flower. I'm not being quite as tidy with this when I was cutting them, so some of them are facing the wrong way around. Just going to try and make sure that they're all facing the right direction. Make sure they're flowers at the top and little stems at the bottom. Come on, in you come. So let's make it a little bit bigger so that it matches the sort of size of the rest of the little posies that we've already put on. A bit more of the sea lavender. Such a lovely name, isn't it? Really evocative, sea lavender. And now we need another one of these crispadias and a bit more ivy for contrast. Of the darkness of the ivy. And I'm going to make sure, because last time it was facing outwards, so this time I'm going to make sure it faces inwards. So positioned it on and then wrapping around again with the wire, just making sure if I can that I'm not covering or trapping any leaves or flowers, that it's just going around the stems. See how lovely that's looking already. You can't really see any of the inside or the outside, that every bit's covered with foliage or blooms. Let's just keep wrapping that round. Should just need to go round sort of maybe 4 or 5 times, something like that. Just try and pull in the stalks. You can see how the back's looking there with the wire over the flat wreath base at the back. So out and in is what you need to keep remembering. One covering the outside and then one facing inside. So facing outside, facing inside. Now I'm going to bring in one that I've made earlier, or made a start on, so you can see where we've got to with this one. So you don't have to watch me make lots and lots of wreaths, because that would take, or posies, that would take quite a long time. Other people are probably much quicker than me, but I like to really enjoy the process. So here you can see we've got all the crispadias spread out. The billy buttons are nice big yellow balls. I've tried to spread them out evenly throughout the wreath, so one with each posy, but you could do 2 with each posy. I think it looks really nice with one on the inside and one on the outside, and it keeps it simple. So I'm going to keep doing this process that you saw before with the wax flowers as the base of the posy. And then we're going to take some of the sea lavender for each one as well. So we're just going to keep building it up. It's exactly the same as we were doing earlier. Put it on against the wreath to kind of see what you need. Does it need a little bit more sea lavender in the middle? A bit more around the back or to the side? And it's a good way to check whether you've covered all the bits of the wreath if you hold it against it like that. So we've got the billy button or crispadia in the middle again, and a little bit of ivy. Ivy can be a little bit tricksy to work with. You kind of have to try and bend it to your will. And again, we're going to put it against the wreath and wrap it round exactly as we did before. You might only need to go around 3 times. It depends really on how long the stems are. They should all be cut to the right length. If they're not, you can always trim them down a little bit more. If you find that they're sticking out too much at the side, it's fine just to give them a little trim. It's going to make another posy with the wax flower. Once you've sort of got the hang of this, it's just one of those very mindful tasks because you can really just concentrate on one thing and you're putting your posy together and you can kind of shut out the rest of the world and just focus on your flowers. And once you know what you're doing like this and you're kind of almost all the way through, it's a really lovely task to do because it's not complicated. You're just working with what's in front of you. I quite like those repetitive tasks sometimes, or not that this is a task, it's a joy, but doing something and just repeating it and really focusing in on it. It's such a treat and a lovely way to spend time. So now I'm going to put a little bit more of the sea lavender or limonium. And the shades on the wreath, really beautiful. Just those greens and whites and blues and yellows. Really speaks of spring, I think. Lamb jumping around fields. I put a nice big bit of ivy here, I think, and try to wrap round without trapping the leaves. I think it's nice to have wreaths as well at every time of year. So I normally make one for autumn as well as Christmas. So I think a lot of people just really associate wreaths with Christmas time. So you've got the holly wreath on the door, but it's also nice to have them to celebrate the seasons all throughout the year. So this is a really lovely spring wreath that could be an Easter decoration. You can also make wreaths that just celebrate the autumn or with summer flowers. And you just need to really have one kind of base flower. And then you can kind of have your star flowers. So if it's summer, maybe you have some dahlias. And in this, the star flowers are crispadia really, and everything else is there as base and texture. So it's the crispadia that are really going to pop. I think probably we just need 2 more little posies. 1 or 2, we'll see. You don't always know how many you need until you get right to the end. And it's the very last section that's a little bit trickier. It's not difficult, it's just a little bit more fiddly. I'll come on to that in a minute. At the moment, let's just keep building. Keep building this little posy. I think you saw my head there, sorry about that. So we've got some ivy. And we're going to lift up the very first posy that we put on and we're going to try and slot this posy underneath. So that's what I mean about the little bit more fiddly. It's just literally lifting up the first posy and trying to slot the last posy underneath so they're all going in the same direction. I'm just going to try, you can see there, try and show you that I'm wrapping around but trying not to squash any of the flowers. So sometimes if I've just done like that, got something trapped underneath, you can just pull it out. Just a little bit of the more fiddly part of the process. Let's try and get that one out. Right. I think we're just going to need 1 more because there's a tiny little gap. Doesn't have to be a huge one, this one, but let's just fit 1 more in and then that will fill that space nicely. And you'll also get to see that last process again of lifting and slotting in. So let's get a few last little sprigs of the wax flower. Let's see, let's put a little bit more of the sea lavender in at the top as well. And the crispadia in the middle there. And then let's finish it off with some ivy. So as you can see, it's just the same as we've been doing all the way through, but we're going to slot it, lift it up lift up the very first posy and slot it under. Again, remembering if it's on the outside or the inside. So then lift it up and slot it in. Mine's going on the outside here. And then I'm going to take that wire and carefully go round the other flowers from the first posy. Lift them up to make sure I don't trap those little blossoms. Lift up as I go, wrap it around, going all the way around really super carefully. That's it, nearly there. Nearly got to the end of the actual wreath making bit. And you can see, does that help you see what I'm doing? Just wrapping the wire all the way around. Careful little ivy leaf. Making sure I don't trap anything. Alright, one more time, let's pull that out. There we go. And that is our finished wreath there. It's looking really beautiful. So in order to hang it, we're going to tie a wire hook or hoop at the back. So we're going to take the wire that we've been using on the roll, and with some sharp scissors or your secateurs if you don't mind blunting them, we're going to just snip the wire off. We're going to, this is a bit tricky to see, so I hope you can see it. We're essentially going to thread it under one of the other wire overlaps, and that's just to secure it. There are different ways of doing this. I don't think there's a right and a wrong way really, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But the aim is to make a little wire hoop. So we're going to try and tighten that so that the wire is secure in place, and then I'm going to try and fold it over. If you can see here, I'm just trying to create a little hoop with the wire. So I'm doubling that over there, and then I'm going to try twisting it. So this is going to be a hoop that we would then suspend it from. So you could, there's two ways of then suspending it or hanging it up. So we can either hang it from this hoop that I'm making with the wire. I'm just going to undo it and try and start over again. You'll probably be a lot better at this bit than me. I've made a real mess of this. But just try and find a way to make a little hoop, and then like I said, there's two ways of suspending this. We can either hang it directly from the hoop, so we could use a nail or maybe a picture hook, or even just a drawing pin, depending on where you want to hang it. On the front door, if it's wooden, a drawing pin would do the job. But we're also going to make it, I'm just twisting it now, just going to make it into a little hook, snip it off the end. So hopefully there you can see that. There's a little hook there, a little hanging hook. So that's what we can use directly to hang onto a nail. But we're also just going to use some of this really lovely natural twine. So this is the second way that you can hang it. You can use the natural twine, and then you can hang it from this. Once we've threaded this through our little hoop. Let's tie a super simple knot. I don't know what this knot's called. I didn't go to the Scouts. But there you go. We've got a wreath, a really beautiful wreath with a hanging hook and also some string there, so that there's different ways to hang it. I'm just going to try and clear some of these things out of the way so that you can see it properly in its full glory. And you could hang it on a wall, you could hang it on the door, you could even give it as an Easter gift. I think anybody would be happy to have this, and it will dry really beautifully, so you should have it for a long time after you've made it. And that is how you make an Arena Flowers DIY Easter wreath. I hope you have lots of fun and enjoy it. Happy Easter!